the Legends update for Ghost of Tsushima. This is a multiplayer update that was released recently, along with the New Game Plus option for the main story, the single player campaign. This is something that I played quite a bit of. I actually spent an entire day with it for the most part. Played through the tutorial. I played through the story, the little story mode or whatever that they had. And then I played one match of survival. This is one of the best multiplayer modes that I've played all generation. This is one of the best multiplayer modes I've seen all generation. This is how you update a game. This is how you add more content to a game post-launch. And the best part about it is that it's free. But that's not why it's good. A game developer can release free content and the game can still suck. Fortunately, that's not the case with Legends. So basically, Legends is divided into a few different modes. It presents you with a basic story that Jin Sakai, who's the main character of Ghost of Tsushima, he's not the only ghost, according to the game. He's not the only ghost in the history of Tsushima. In fact, there's multiple ghosts who existed before, long before his time. And these are the characters apparently that you play as in the multiplayer. You have 4 different classes, including an archer class, just a standard, offensive type class. You have a healer class, and then you have the assassin class, which is the class that I chose. And so you have the choice to choose one of these classes early on when you first start. And then after you reach, I think, level 6 or something like that with the first class, then you have the option to unlock one of the other classes using some type of currency that you unlock in the multiplayer. And then when you unlock the other classes, you can freely switch between them on the fly before a mission starts. Once you start a mission, you can't switch classes. You have to stick with that class until the end of the mission. And the story mode in the multiplayer is presented in a storybook narrative style. It's narrated. There's not really any cutscenes or anything. And the missions are all pretty repetitive, but because the gameplay in Ghost of Tsushima is good, the repetition doesn't really become a detriment, but it actually works in the game's favor. It plays to the game's strength. And basically, you have simple objectives in the story mode where you run around, and it really just consists of you having to kill and defeat enemies. Sometimes you have to free prisoners. It really doesn't vary outside of that. And you also have the choice to play the missions either solo or with another person. If you choose to play a mission solo, you're going to have a really difficult time getting through the story missions. They're pretty much impossible to play solo. These are missions that were meant to be played with another person, which consists of 2 people minimum for the story mode. So you really need another player in order to be successful in the story mode to the multiplayer. And you have to rely on teamwork to some degree. And that mainly consists of you needing to stick by the other person or the other player. If one of you ventures out or runs out to a different location and you get in trouble, it can cost you that objective. And then if you die, then or you fail an objective, then you have to restart from a checkpoint. And after restarting from so many different checkpoints, depending on the difficulty that you're playing on, the other person is going to end up getting frustrated. You're going to end up getting frustrated, and one of you is going to end up quitting. So you have to rely on teamwork in order to get through the multiplayer. This is cooperative multiplayer. This isn't PvP, player versus player multiplayer. So the story mode is around, I think, 7 to 8 missions, somewhere around there. And then after you beat the story mode, you have the choice of going back through and playing it again. They have 3 different difficulties for all the missions that are in Legends, and they come in the form of bronze, silver, and gold. And that's basically your easy, normal, and hard. And then you have different stipulations that are placed for the higher difficulties. For example, gold, which is the hardest difficulty, the hardest challenge for any of the missions in Legends. For the gold missions, if any of the players end up being incapacitated, then you automatically get a mission fail, and then you have to start from the beginning. So the higher the difficulty, the more teamwork becomes emphasized and it becomes more important in order to achieve success. The survival mode is different from the story missions because basically what it is you drop down with 3 other players. There's 4 players total, and each of the 4 players plays as at least one class of their choosing. And you all drop down, and you have to fight through multiple waves of large, extensive waves of enemies, and basically an annex style type of gameplay mode where you have to go around, you have to capture these capture points, and then you have to defend the capture points from the actual mobs of enemies. I thought that was done fairly well. Outside of the basics of what survival is, it's not there's not really much else to it. You do build up points in survival, and you can purchase different perks, but they're not really varied. Like, for example, you can summon a spirit bear for a certain amount of points. You can make enemies ignite when they're standing next to any of the players in the game type for a certain amount of in-game currency. But those aren't really varied, and they don't really drastically change or alter the gameplay in any meaningful way. And similar to the story missions, survival also has 3 different difficulties. And the higher the difficulty, the more waves that the game throws at you. For example, bronze difficulty in survival mode, I believe, caps at 15 rounds, and then that goes up to 20 rounds for silver difficulty, and then gold difficulty, it caps at 25 rounds. So it's a fun little mode, and it's the mode that's really the main draw, the main thing that players will be playing the most in Legends mode. It's the mode that's intended for the players to go through the most in order to level up the different classes, the 4 different classes, the fastest. They do have another mode known as raids, but it hasn't been added to the game yet. It's something that's going to be coming soon, and it's going to have some type of requirement. So you can't even play it just outright. It's something that you have to unlock. In a way, I can see that being something that's going to annoy certain players, especially the ones who try out Legends sometime later, sometime down the line, after raids has already been added to the multiplayer. But doing it that way does encourage the player to stick with the multiplayer, the multiplayer mode. So all the different classes have their own unique skills. Like, they have one unique skill for each different class. For example, one of the classes, they can heal fallen party members from a distance. Another class is able to summon a spirit animal to fight alongside them and their team. You have another class, the assassin class, going back to that, where you can perform executions from a distance, which is very different from anything that's in the main game itself. And for the most part, mechanics-wise, as far as navigating the environment, as well as the overall combat system itself, it's all ripped from the main game of Ghost of Tsushima, but it's more limited in the multiplayer. They have the 4 different stances that are in the main game for the multiplayer, but they're limited to what your equipment is. If you want to use a specific stance, for example, you have to equip a sword that will allow you to use that stance. You can't use all 4 stances at once like you can in the main game. You have to equip different gear in order to use the different stances. So they have swords in the multiplayer that are specific to, like, the water stance. They have swords that are specific to the stone stance. And then on top of that, they have different customizable options that are pretty much ripped from the main game. And you can customize the way your character looks for Legends. There's quite a bit to do in the multiplayer mode. It's not overloaded with different gameplay modes because Ghost of Tsushima is still primarily a single-player game only. But as I already stated before, for the amount of content that they do add here, and given the fact that they also added New Game Plus to the main game itself, they added trophies to both of these modes. They designed the multiplayer mode, they designed Legends to be played extensively over a long period of time. This is quite a bit of content for a free update. And this is the way game developers should be tackling DLC instead of forcing players to give them extra money for something that should be free in the first place. And this is the way I want to see post-launch content go. Legends is a fantastic addition to Ghost of Tsushima, and it really propels it to be the best game that's been released this year so far. Before this update, I would say that Doom Eternal was the best game that was released this year. But after this update, Ghost of Tsushima clearly has the stronger multiplayer by comparison to what Doom Eternal offered with its shitty battle mode. And once again, New Game Plus mode is just another available option, another neat addition to what was already a well-executed game. All in all, this was a great update. And so that's what I got to say about Ghost of Tsushima Legends. It is a lot of fun. There is quite a bit to do in it, and it does reward the player for sticking around. I will be playing more of this DLC, more of this multiplayer over the next few weeks, seeing how it evolves over time. For now, however, I will be moving on to other things as far as my channel is concerned. As an update to the retrospectives I said I was going to do, I played Vampire. I have quite a few things to say about that. I won't be doing a full retrospective on Vampire. I played the game for about 2 to 3 hours before I decided to hang the game up and basically quit. And I will save what I have to say about my experience with Vampire for the actual video when it's uploaded. Dying Light, I played for a good hour and a half. Won't be doing a retrospective on that either. I came to the conclusion that the game is decent. It's not bad, but it's not really for me. It's not a game that I would stick around and just play for an extended period of time. It's just not something I'm really interested in. Open world, first person parkour games just don't really interest me. That's why I didn't play Mirror's Edge Catalyst, along with the fact that the first Mirror's Edge was garbage. Outlast 2 I haven't tried yet, so I'll probably still do a retrospective on that. But my retrospectives are meant for games that I play from start to finish. If I don't finish a game, then I'm not going to make a retrospective on something. So yeah, that's the update with those. I will be getting Watch Dogs Legion in a few days and playing through that. And I also intend to get Spider-Man Miles Morales on the PlayStation 4. And then the last game that I will get is Cyberpunk 2077, which comes out late next month. So I'm going to see about finishing Legion and Miles Morales before that game comes out. And that's what's coming next.